Network providers are also feeling Eskom's blackouts. MTN South Africa says load shedding has made it difficult to keep users connected. Although the cell phone giant has backup generators, it says sometimes it's just not enough. To give us more on this, we're joined by the Corporate Affairs Executive at MTN South Africa, Jacqui O'Sullivan. Good evening, Jacqui. Thanks very much for your time. Just for the layperson out there, explain to us how electricity cut-offs affect you.
So generally speaking, that's the very thing, is it's affecting South African customers. MTN invested over 40 billion rand in the last 4 years upgrading our network. And part of that upgrade was to make sure that we had backup batteries in most of our sites, which means that fortunately we've been the least affected network. So we've been able to keep our customers connected. However, the problem with stage 3 and stage 4 load shedding is that the backup batteries don't have sufficient time to recharge. And what that means is that there will then potentially be downtime. It's a very tricky situation because we want to be able to keep our customers connected, because when load shedding is taking place, you generally want to communicate, you want to order food from your phone, you want to watch YouTube because there's nothing else to do, and it's becoming really a problem when you're getting into that stage 3 and 4 load shedding. So I think you probably have seen quite a lot of social media activities with some of the other networks where there was quite a lot of concern, and that really is what it comes down to, either where we have sites or where the networks have sites that haven't got battery, or the batteries are just not getting the chance to recharge.
In fact, what you just said is also important, because I was talking to a guest the other day. We're trying to get someone to come on the show, and his phone went down and then went back on again. And he couldn't understand it, because from where most people, like me, see it's like, but this is mobile technology that's got nothing to do with electricity provided by Eskom. And in fact, it's wrong to think that way. It
is indeed, because the base sites are all powered by electricity. We have varying impacts. So you could have a small site go down and it could impact sort of 2 to 5 kilometers. But if you have a hub site going down, it could take out an entire suburb or a region. So the impact can be quite small, which is potentially, if you're driving, the signal will drop and you'll pick it up again. But it could actually be much larger than that. And of course, there's a larger financial impact to this. Just as an example, during the December downtime, we spent at MTN about 2 million rand in 1 week just on the fuel that was required for our diesel-generated sites rather than the battery-powered. So, the running costs become very high very quickly.
So you incur financial losses as well. But here's something I can't resist. But there are people who look at what happened at that concert, for example, where people tried to call but couldn't really reach people for help. In other words, we shouldn't feel sorry for you, because you do not service your customers perhaps as best as you can. And that situation I'm talking about, where people are trying to call Uber but really couldn't get through because the lines were jammed. What is your responsibility in such situation? Sorry, I'm sneaking in.
No, not at all. I think that it's a fair point. I do think that where we have responsibility, so for instance, something around like the MTN 8, it's a sponsorship that we have. We know that we're going to have full stadiums. It's a very popular sponsorship. When we have events like that happening, we make sure we boost the signal in those areas to make sure that we're able to service the needs of the crowds.
But do you do that all the time?
When you're filling an entire stadium, that's going to be another challenge. But the biggest problem is not so much about feeling sorry for the network providers. It's the concern that it creates for customers, because customers are ultimately the ones that suffer. So from an MTN perspective, because we've spent as much money as we have on batteries, we're able to keep the customers connected. But it really isn't about the networks. It's about actually making sure, because people are connected for safety purposes, not just to make calls and to send WhatsApps. So there's certainly a bigger impact here that we're looking at, and then we've got a larger impact of the actual investments that are needing to be made.
Yesterday we were running a sad story of a school child who was shot because security guards were trying to prevent thieves. Well, initially we thought it was thieves were trying, because it was a telecom tower. So we thought it was thieves who were trying to steal copper cable, but as it turned out, thieves were trying to steal, among other things, the batteries that were being used to make sure that that tower is kept on. How often do you experience such problems?
It is absolutely epidemic at the moment. We are currently sitting with a situation where, particularly during the load shedding, when there are no lights, we are losing up to 8 batteries a day in some areas.
From theft?
From theft. These batteries are being stolen by syndicates, very organized syndicates. They will come and they will take in an entire region over in one night.
What do they use them for?
So many of them will actually cross over the borders because they don't have immediate application, a household application. We have seen them popping up on Facebook, where you have them being put up for sale. They can be converted for use in power generation through solar technology, but it does require quite sophisticated understanding of the electrics to make that work. But it's extraordinary. These things cost 28,000 Rand each. Just last year, we had to spend about 250 million Rand at MTN, not just to replace the batteries, that's separate from the batteries, but to repair what gets broken in the process. So one of the key things we want to do is to reach out to all customers, and these are not just MTN customers, across all the networks, particularly at night, not to assume that somebody is working on a tower. If you see something, report it, because we need to try and keep our communities connected. And the only way we can do that is by having more eyes and ears on the ground. We're spending a huge amount of money. We've got armed guards. We've got quite detailed tracking mechanisms. But the syndicates are smart. They outsmart us on a new technology that we add, so we're constantly having to reinvent the security measures. But it's a significant problem. And the solution to the load shedding in the form of the batteries is unfortunately being exacerbated by the load shedding with them being stolen.